Single dad CEO's heartwarming journey. Maid becomes unexpectedly life-changing love after 30 days. Mark was at the tipping point. His startup was teetering on the edge, just like the pile of laundry that sat in the corner of his cramped living room. Each wrinkle in the fabric mirrored the chaos in his life as a devoted single dad to his spirited 8-year-old daughter, Mia. The mornings never started without a whirlwind of, "Dad, where's my backpack?" and, "Can we have pancakes instead of cereal?" tossed in with countless deadlines flickering on his laptop. He felt like he was losing his grip. Desperate for help, he reluctantly hired Laura. She was a 34-year-old single mom who cleaned homes to keep food on the table for her son, Eric. At first, Mark saw her as just another hired hand, but God, was he wrong. Each day as she walked through his door, there was a spark of energy and determination that lit up the room. Her laughter echoed off the walls, and every time she'd catch Mia's infectious enthusiasm, something quietly shifted within him. Laura was truly remarkable. Watching her juggle 3 jobs while finding time to volunteer at the local community center, teaching kids about kindness and teamwork, was both inspiring and humbling. Her resilience was a stark contrast to Mark's well-crafted excuses. He often felt overwhelmed, but she wore her challenges like a badge of honor. It didn't take long for Mark's initial skepticism to give way. Their conversations began to reveal shared struggles and dreams, turning their employer-employee relationship into a budding friendship. Each shared smile, each common story, chipped away at the protective walls he had built. But as their bond deepened, the whispers around town grew louder. Friends raised eyebrows, families questioned judgments, and Mark felt the weight of their skepticism settle on his chest, like a lead blanket. When disaster struck and his startup faced collapse, that weight crystallized into fear. Just as he was about to lean on Laura for emotional support, however, a shocking secret about her past surfaced. It was a truth that could force their paths apart, a revelation that took the air from his lungs and left his heart pounding in disbelief. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Conflict composed the air between them. Mark felt the tremor of his biases clashing with his heart. How could he reconcile what society expected with the connection they had forged? Meanwhile, Laura was trapped in a web of her own fears, wondering if love could rise above the invisible barriers they faced. With the deadline for his startup looming, Mark's heart raced just thinking about searching for Laura. Would he dare to confront societal judgments? Would he break free of the misconceptions that clung to them? He stood at a crossroad, one filled with uncertainty and hope, realizing that this moment might define not just his life but also what love could truly mean in a world polarized by class. The stakes had never been higher, and he had to make a choice. Would he find Laura and mend what had been frayed? Or would fear snatch away the one true light in his life, leaving only a shadow behind? The question lingered in the air, intensifying the ache in his heart. Mark took a deep breath, trying to will his feet to move. The weight of the decision pressed against his chest like a stone. He had witnessed what Laura had been through, how hard she fought for her son and to keep their small household afloat. He couldn't just let that slip away because of some judgments that kept echoing in his mind. In that moment of stillness, a flash of early morning spent with Laura came rushing back. The way she'd laugh at Mia's silly jokes, the way she'd fold his laundry with a gentle smile. He realized he couldn't let fear dictate his choices any longer. This wasn't just about him, it was about Mia too. Mia, who adored Laura as if she were family, who needed the warmth and laughter she brought into their home. Pushing past his worries, Mark turned and headed toward the door. The drive to Laura's place felt like the longest journey of his life. What would he say? How would she react? His mind raced with possibilities, some optimistic, some cripplingly daunting. The murmurs of the town replayed in his head, but he pressed on, reminding himself of the connection they had formed, the bond that seemed to carve a path through the chaos of their lives. As he pulled up to her modest apartment building, a pang of guilt washed over him. Was it fair to want more from someone like Laura? But something deeper countered it, a pulse of hope. If they could just sit down, talk, and untangle the strands of misunderstanding woven between them, maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for them. He stepped out of his car, heart thumping as he climbed the stairs. Each creaking step felt like a countdown to something monumental. Reaching her door, he hesitated, thoughts tumbling like marbles in his mind. He'd come this far. Taking a deep breath, he knocked. Time seemed to stretch. Then he heard her footsteps approaching. The door creaked open, and there she stood, her eyes wide with surprise. Laura looked beautiful, even framed by the doorframe in a simple t-shirt and jeans, her hair brushed loosely away from her face. But it was the flicker of vulnerability that shone through in her gaze that tore at his heart. "Mark? What's wrong?" she asked. Concern replaced the surprise, pulling in the moment. He stammered, I need to talk to you. About us. About everything." Her expression flickered between concern and confusion. "Now?" Yes, now," he replied, desperation creeping into his voice. "Please. Can I come in?" She hesitated, and he could see the tumult of emotions playing across her features: fear, curiosity, hope. Finally, she stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The warmth of her space enveloped him, but it felt heavy, laden with unspoken words. He sensed the unbreakable thread that had begun to weave itself between them, but the uncertainty still lingered like a shadow. "Mark, I mean, with everything happening," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "I know," he interrupted, feeling the urgency growing within him. "But we can't keep dancing around this." As they sat together, the atmosphere charged with unacknowledged feelings and shared burdens, Mark felt an undeniable spark that brought to life every hope he held for a future together. But even as he searched for the right words to bridge the gap, a sharp noise interrupted them. Mia's laughter echoed from the hallway, a sound that momentarily broke the tension. Laura's eyes lit up, the gentle smile returning, and it shook Mark deeper than he expected. "Mia's home?" "Yeah," he said, a mixture of relief and warmth flooding over him. But that relief was swiftly entwined with dread over what would happen next. As he stood, preparing to introduce the women in his life, he couldn't shake the feeling that their worlds were about to collide in a way he could neither foresee nor control. What if she doesn't understand? He mused aloud, the anxiety twisting in his gut, as he turned to Laura. Before Laura could respond, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, small but full of bright curiosity. Would Mia accept Laura? Would love find a way through all the shadows? The questions loomed thick, heavy in the air, just as they awaited the moment of truth. Mark's thoughts raced as he turned back to Laura, emotions swirling like leaves in a brisk autumn wind. The footsteps grew louder, and the soft laughter cut through the tension in the room. He couldn't help but wonder if this was the moment when everything would change, or if it would unravel before his eyes. "Stay calm," he whispered to himself, but his heart thudded in his chest like a drum at a parade. Mia rounded the corner, her small body bouncing with a vitality that instantly filled the room with light. She spotted Laura first, her eyes widening in joy. "Laura!" she squealed, making a beeline for her. Mia wrapped her arms tightly around Laura's waist, the kind of hug only a child could give, innocent and unconditional. Mark watched, a mix of pride and anxiety washing over him. How could something so pure bring forth so many questions? Did Mia see Laura as more than just a friend? His gaze flickered between the two of them. The sight of their bond sparked a flicker of hope deep within him, but part of him was still chained to his worries. Laura knelt down, returning Mia's embrace with a laugh that rang through the air like music. "Hey, sweet pea. How was school today?" she asked, brushing a loose strand of hair back from Mia's forehead. "Okay. We learned about dinosaurs," Mia replied, her youthful enthusiasm bubbling over. "I can tell you all about how they really lived. Did you know some were big as a bus?" Mark couldn't help but smile at Mia's excitement. He watched as Laura leaned in closer, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. This was the moment he had been afraid of, where two worlds filled with hopes and fears would finally intersect. Wow. That sounds amazing, Laura said, her smile brightening even more. What was your favorite dinosaur? Mia's eyes widened with delight, and she began to animatedly recount what she had learned, her hands flying in the air like she was conducting an orchestra. For a fleeting moment, the three of them were enveloped in an atmosphere of warmth and laughter, but as the laughter faded, Mark's heart sank. He wanted to swoop in and declare the truth that he wanted Laura in their lives for good. Yet, the words felt stuck in his throat, tangled with the doubts that had haunted him. Would Mia even want that? What if she got hurt? Suddenly, Mia turned to Mark, her innocent gaze piercing right through him. Daddy, can Laura come to my next art show? Mark's chest tightened. His daughter's joy hung suspended in the air, but what if the connection didn't last? What if Laura walked away when this all became too much? Laura's eyes flickered to him, a question lingering there. Was this what he really wanted? The hope she carried shone through her vulnerable expression. Mark? She prompted gently, bringing the tense moment back into focus. What do you think? He wanted to say yes. He wanted to dive into this beautiful chaos. But he hesitated, caught in the crosshairs of desire and fear. His heart raced as he wrestled with the words. The room felt charged, the echoes of Mia's laughter fading into the background. It was a perfect moment, yet heavy with uncertainty. What if this was the beginning of something new, something beautiful? Or would it simply be another heart-wrenching chapter in their lives? As he opened his mouth to respond, the distant sounds of the outside world rushed in, a reminder of both the joys and challenges that loomed beyond their tiny bubble. He knew that whatever he said next could change everything. Would he dare to take that leap? Just then, a loud crash came from the kitchen, a mix of sound and chaos that jerked them all from the moment. Mark's heart dropped. What now? As he and Laura exchanged worried glances, a question nagged at him. Was this merely the beginning of their storm? Or was it the very sign that true love and transformation was waiting just beyond the doorway? Mark felt the weight of the moment shift with the unexpected crash. It was as if the universe had chosen that very instant to lay bare the fragile balance he had been teetering on. Mia's wide eyes darted towards the kitchen, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. What was that? She asked, her voice small but laced with intrigue. Laura stood up, smoothing down her dress, her own concern evident. I'll check, she said, heading in the direction of the sound. Wait! Mark called out, instinctively stepping forward. 1,000 what-ifs raced through his mind. What if the crash was nothing? What if something was broken? Or worse, what if it was something dangerous? But more than that, what if Laura saw this as the chaos that he feared might drive her away? Maybe I should look, he offered, his heart thudding painstakingly in his chest. Laura paused and turned back to him, a mix of determination and concern in her eyes. I'll go with you, she said, stepping closer. The warmth of her presence calmed him, if only slightly. Together, they made their way to the kitchen, Mia trailing behind them, curious and eager. As they rounded the corner, they were confronted with the scene, a fallen stack of plates scattered on the floor, their ceramic surfaces glimmering pitifully in the kitchen light. Oh no! Mia gasped, eyes wide. Did something break? Mark knelt down beside the mess, instinct kicking in. It's okay, sweetheart. Just some plates. He glanced up at Laura, who was now kneeling as well, her expression softening at the mishap. Here, let us clean this up together, Laura suggested, her voice soothing as she reached for a plate that lay cracked at the edge. As they started picking up the shards, laughter bubbled up within them, half nervous and half relieved. Mia made a game of it, trying to see who could find the most pieces first. You might beat us at this, sweetheart. Mark said, chuckling. The chaos of the moment transformed the tension that had been suffocating him just moments before. It was then he noticed Laura's gaze lingering on him as he picked up the last piece of a plate. There was a sparkle in her eyes, a connection that felt electric. For a moment, the world outside faded away, and all that mattered was this little makeshift family they were creating. Once they finished cleaning up, Mia turned to them with a beaming smile. That wasn't so scary, was it? Laura laughed, a beautiful sound that put Mark at ease. Not at all, especially with you two helping. Mark knew he couldn't hold back any longer. Laura, he began, his heart racing as he searched for the courage to express himself. About the art show, I think Mia is right. We'd love to have you there. Her eyes lit up, a smile breaking across her face that made his heart swell. Really? I'd love to come. Before he could stop himself, he added, I want you to be a part of our lives more. The words came tumbling out, raw and unfiltered. Laura's expression shifted, a mix of joy and uncertainty crossing her features. You really mean that? Yeah, I do. I think we could make something great together, he said, surprising even himself with the volume of hope coursing through him. But just as he felt buoyed by his words, another loud noise erupted this time, a thunderous knock at the front door. The three of them jumped, startled. Mark's heart sank as dread pulled him back down. Who could that be? He wondered aloud, but Mia was already bolting for the living room, curiosity overtaking her apprehension. As Mark and Laura exchanged a glance, concern written all over their faces, a new question lingered in the air. What awaited them on the other side of that door? It was a sensible moment, yet it felt heavy with a promise of change. Would it lead them closer together, or would it unravel everything they just began to build? Mark swallowed hard, his heart racing as Mia bounded toward the door with a mixture of excitement and naivety. He could hear her little feet padding against the hardwood floor, but all he could focus on was the tense silence that followed the knock. Who could it be? The possibilities swirled in his mind. An unexpected visitor, a problem he didn't want to face, or even someone from his past. He glanced at Laura, who shifted her weight from one foot to the other, an anxious look on her face. Maybe it's just the neighbor, Laura suggested, trying to sound casual, but her eyes betrayed the worry brewing inside her. Mark forced a smile, but inside, uncertainty was gnawing at him. Yeah, just the neighbor. Probably asking if we can keep the music down. He stepped toward the living room, his palms suddenly clammy. Mia flung the door open, wide-eyed and brimming with enthusiasm. Standing on the porch was a tall figure clad in a dark coat with a hood pulled over their head, casting their features in shadow. Who is it? Mark called, his voice steadier than he felt. Mia stepped back, peering out. I don't know. She exclaimed, a combination of thrill and apprehension evident on her face. They look different. Mark reached her side, looking into the cold afternoon light. His heart dropped as the figure lowered their hood. For a fleeting second, familiarity washed over him and then solidified into dread. It was Jake, an old friend from college who he hadn't seen in years. Mark. Long time, no see. Jake grinned, oblivious to the stunned silence that enveloped the room. Hey, Mark stammered, not sure if he should feel relief or annoyance. What are you doing here? I was in the area and thought I'd stop by. Heard about your big art show. Figured I should come by and check it out. His enthusiasm was genuine, but the surprise of his sudden appearance left Mark feeling exposed. Behind him, Laura's smile faded, replaced by uncertainty. Mark could feel her inching closer, as if searching for reassurance, and his heart squeezed at the thought of the battle already brewing. Mia, meanwhile, was still caught up in Jake's arrival. Are you an artist too? She asked, a glimmer of hope lighting her eyes, the tension of the moment bypassing her childlike innocence. Not exactly, kiddo, Jake chuckled. I'm more of a finance guru these days, helping people manage their art investments. Mark felt his stomach drop. Jake's world was one he had tried to escape, the constant pressure of business and success gnawing at him like a relentless itch. Oh, that's cool, Mia chirped, unaware of the shifting dynamics. My dad is an artist. Mark shot her a warning glance, but she was too lost in the excitement of the moment. Jake's eyes danced over to him, raising an eyebrow as if he could read the tension. What did I miss? Jake asked, his tone all friendly curiosity. Laura stepped forward, her voice steady as she forced a smile. We were just cleaning up a little mess. Would you like to come in? We have snacks. Mark's heart raced. Would this just complicate things? Sure, I'd love to catch up with you both, Jake replied, moving past them and into their home. As Jake settled onto the couch, Mark was caught between the warmth of potential connection and the icy grip of the past he thought he had shed. He could see Laura's eyes narrowing with questions, likely wondering what this unexpected visitor meant for their fragile little family. What had started as a simple evening had suddenly erupted into a whirlwind of memories, possibilities, and uncertainty. Could this twist of fate help strengthen their bond, or would it pull them apart in ways he couldn't even begin to understand? Mark exchanged a glance with Laura, the unspoken anxiety hanging heavy in the air. So, what have you been up to? He asked Jake, not knowing whether he was inviting trouble or a path to understanding. As the conversation swirled around the room, Mark's heart raced with a new question. Faced with the knock of the past, where would they stand when the dust settled? Mark shifted on his feet, watching as Jake made himself comfortable on the couch. The casual way Jake sprawled out, arms resting behind his head, only added to Mark's tension. It was as though Jake had never left, slipping back into old habits as if time had folded up neatly, bypassing all the years of separation. Laura disappeared into the kitchen, likely to prepare the snacks she had offered, leaving Mark alone with the whirlwind of thoughts and a man he once knew too well. An awkward silence hung between them, punctuated only by the faint clattering of dishes against the counter. Mia bounced to the floor, her little fingers tracing the patterns on the plush rug as she sat cross-legged, completely unfazed by the thickening atmosphere. Wow, you're really doing it, huh? An art show. That's impressive, Mark, Jake said, breaking the stillness, his voice carrying a mix of admiration and surprise. Yeah, well Mark replied, shrugging. Just trying to make it work. You always were the creative one. I remember those late-night sessions where you'd sketch stuff while we pretended to study, Jake said, reminiscing with a grin. But Mark only felt a pang of regret. Those moments now seemed overshadowed by past failures, mistakes he desperately wanted to leave behind. Mia looked up at Mark, her innocent eyes sparkling. Daddy, when is your art show? Can I go? Soon, sweetie, he replied, forcing a smile. We'll make it a special day. Jake's laughter surprised them both. You should show me some of your pieces. I've always thought that art could use a little more chaos, Mark clenched his fists at the mention of chaos, his mind whirling. Was Jake really here for nostalgia, or did he have ulterior motives? And how could he tune back into their dynamic, knowing that every shared laugh might bring back more than just memories? A moment of understanding flickered between them, but it felt like standing on a rickety bridge. What brings you back, really? Mark ventured cautiously, curiosity mixing with the weight of uncertainty. Well, I've been on a journey of my own. Jake sat up, suddenly serious. Divorce will do that to you. I needed a change. The confession hung heavy in the air. Mark's heart ached for Jake. He understood the pain of losing something once cherished. But it also stirred his own anxiety, reflecting a sense of loss that gnawed at him too. He didn't like this feeling. It felt too raw. Have you talked to anyone about it? Mark asked, restricting the swell of his emotions. Not really. Just tried to keep busy work and all that. Jake glanced at Mia. Kids really have a way of putting things into perspective, huh? Mark nodded, his throat tight. He could feel Laura's presence nearby, and he wished for her to return to anchor him. Instead, the distant sound of her busying herself in the kitchen reminded him that they were still navigating these uncharted waters together. I guess it never gets easy, Mark admitted softly, suddenly too aware of their shifting realities. It's a constant balancing act. Jake met his gaze. You're not alone, I'm around if you need to talk. There was a sincerity in his voice that caught Mark off guard, leaving him wondering whether the past could really find a path forward. Before he could respond, Laura returned, balancing a plate of snacks alongside drinks. Here we go, she said with a forced cheerfulness. The tension in the air was palpable, but nothing could dampen Mia's enthusiasm as she reached for the cookies. Mark caught Laura's eye, the silent queries danced between them, both veils of unease present. What would this brief encounter shake loose? Would it be a fleeting reconnection, or would it disrupt their fragile family balance forever? as they settled into a casual chatter, old friends reuniting, Mark couldn't shake off the tugging thread of unanswered questions. Something was shifting, and he sensed that it would challenge everything he thought he knew about his past and his future. What he didn't expect was that a single conversation could change the trajectory of their lives. Mark sat stiffly on the armrest of the couch, a faint smile on his face as Mia bounced from cookie to cookie. Laura joined them, pouring drinks and exchanging light banter with Jake while Mark felt like he was watching from behind glass. Every laugh that left Laura's lips seemed to ripple through him, drawing warm images of their family life, the closeness they shared, but then cold anxiety nudged him, reminding him of every unsaid word and unaddressed feeling lurking in the corners of their home. "Have you thought about what you're going to show at the gallery?" Laura asked, shooting Mark a quick glance as she settled next to him. He felt the weight of her gaze, the gentle support of her presence. It reminded him that they were fighting this battle together. "I've got a lot of pieces," he said, absently reaching for a cookie. "Just need to choose the right ones." Jake leaned forward, his expression earnest. "The right ones will tell your story, man. You've got to be proud of what you create. It's all part of your journey." Mark's heart raced. That simple reminder left a mark on him, igniting a flame of creativity he hadn't felt in years, but also echoing another, darker truth. Sharing the story is hard. It makes it real. What if no one gets it? Art is subjective, Jake countered. But you owe it to yourself to put it out there. His tone softened. And maybe even to your family. Don't you think they deserve to see the real you? Mark's throat constricted. The weight of those words pressed down on him. It was true, he often held back parts of himself, fearing they might shake their family foundation. But could he truly share everything? What if they didn't like what they saw? "Danny, can I show him the picture I drew?" Mia asked suddenly, her face full of hope and excitement, her curly hair bouncing as she tugged at Mark's sleeve. Mark couldn't resist. "Of course, sweetheart." As Mia scurried to grab her latest drawing, he exchanged glances with Laura. She smiled, encouraging him silently to let go. The moment overflowed with warmth and possibility, yet it lingered on the fragile edges of their current lives. Mia returned, holding the drawing up high. It was a colorful mix of lines and splashes, chaotic but alive. "Look, Daddy. It's us." She beamed. Mark's heart swelled. It was nothing short of breathtaking, reflecting not only her innocent perspective but a familiar bond that felt both new and old. Everything about it signaled hope. "Wow." Jake's face brightened. "This is fantastic, Mia. You've got real talent." Mark felt the weight lift slightly, the air buzzing with that warm energy of shared admiration. "You might be the next Picasso," he quipped, ruffling her hair. As they reconnected over tiny moments, Mark turned to watch Laura, who was clearly moved by the sight of their daughter's pride. But her smile faltered for just a breath, quickly masked by another cheerful word as she turned to Jake. "Thanks for being here, Jake," she said, her voice softer now, the warmth between all of them thickening, yet something felt off in the balance. Mark watched. The familiarity between Laura and Jake felt oddly unsettling. Suddenly, Mia's innocent question sliced through the aura. "Uncle Jake, are you going to move in with us too?" Time froze. The weight of her words settled like a stone. Mark's insides twisted with a rush of disbelief. Could he handle the implications of that question? Would this meddling remembrance tie them back together in a way he wasn't ready for? As laughter echoed from Jake and Laura caught completely off guard, Mark felt the unsteady ground beneath him shift again. A fresh wave of uncertainty flooded his mind, forcing him to face the truth that lingered darker and murkier than before. Was the past really coming back to claim him, or was it merely a reflection of his own fears? And as he swallowed hard, Mark realized that maybe it was time to confront the very things he wanted to avoid once and for all. Mark's heart hammered in his chest as laughter surrounded him. Jake's grin couldn't hide his surprise, and Laura's eyes flickered toward him, a cautious note in her smile. The innocence of Mia's question hung in the air, cloaked in a warmth that felt only partly familiar. Mark felt a sudden chill, cutting between the comfortable chaos of cookies and laughter. Move in? Jake echoed, his voice woven with humor. But there was an edge to it that Mark didn't like. Mia bounced in her seat, not catching the shadow rippling across the room. Yeah. You're my favorite uncle. You'd make the best pancakes. The room fell quiet as the adults registered the words. Mark's pulse quickened. Did Mia sense the cracks forming? Jake hastily recovered, a gentle chuckle escaping his lips. I'm flattered, but your dad makes the world's best pancakes, Mia. You'd be living with a chef. Mark forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. He felt the ground shift under him, thoughts racing like wildfire. Wouldn't it be easier if he could be that carefree again? If he hadn't built walls so high? Laura nudged him with her shoulder, a silent encouragement to lean into the moment. It's great to have family around, she said softly, glancing between Mark and Jake. Was that a plea in her eyes or just a reflection of the evening's light? He couldn't be sure. Jake picked up a cookie, using it as a prop to distract Mia, who continued to flutter on her seat, oblivious to the tension coiling around them. How about a cookie? Or is it cake we need for celebration? Mark's throat was dry as he looked at Jake, who was now laughing and playing along with their daughter. Would he always feel like a ghost in this family, just hovering on the edges? But Mia's laughter, bright and contagious, melted some of the ice in his chest. Seeing her so happy reminded him of the tender moments entwined in their daily lives, the late-night stories, the joyous celebrations of her little victories. All right, how about both? Mark finally said, his voice surprisingly steady. He pushed aside the swirling doubts and forced himself to focus. They were here, together, as a family, however delicate that concept had become. Let us have a snack party. Everyone grab something you love. Mia jumped off the couch, clapping her hands. Laura's eyes softened, a proud smile spreading across her face. For a moment, the world felt right again. It was what they made of these small moments that truly mattered. Mark took a breath, feeling the weight of the earlier conversation still lurking in the corners of his mind. He caught Laura's gaze and held it, a silent agreement passing between them. He would share. He would face the unspoken fears and fashion them into something brighter. As Mia's giggles filled the space, Mark felt warmth bleed back into the room, and he dared to dream for a moment. Maybe they could also find the courage to confront the past and build something anew. Just as dusk painted the room in soft pastels, the doorbell rang. The cheery chime split through their small sanctuary, punctuating the fragile peace they had just clutched. Mark furrowed his brow. Who could that be? A knot tightened in his stomach as he rose to answer the door. Little did he know that the next step he was about to take would fracture the evening's fragile harmony in ways he never anticipated. What awaited him on the other side would change everything. Mark hesitated at the door, a shadow of doubt flickering in his mind. Who could it be at this hour? The cheerful atmosphere of laughter and cookies receded, replaced by dulled edges of uncertainty. He reached for the doorknob, his heart racing once again. The door swung open, revealing a familiar figure. It was Sarah, an old friend, her expression caught between surprise and discomfort as she stood there with a small basket of muffins clutched in her hands. Hey, Mark, she said, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Sarah, hi. Mark stammered, unsure how to react. Thought I'd drop by with some offerings, she said, her bright tone trying to mask an undercurrent of tension. I didn't know if you were home. I saw your car. Mark stepped aside, allowing her to enter, but the warmth of the room quickly felt stifled as her presence seemed to ripple through the air, changing its very fabric. Mia, still bouncing from the euphoria of the snack party announcement, darted over. Miss Sarah. You brought muffins. She squealed, her joy a stark contrast to Mark's internal chaos. Hey, sweetie. Sarah knelt down, her smile effortlessly lighting up her face as she handed the basket to Mia. I made these just for you. As Mia paraded the muffins around, Mark's heart was heavy with memories. Sarah had been a close confidant once. The two had shared dreams over coffee and late-night talks about their futures, until time and life's complexities had pulled them apart. Jake, sensing the shift, leaned into Laura. "Looks like we have ourselves an unexpected gathering," he said with a teasing grin. But Mark couldn't muster any laughter. "Yeah, unexpected," Mark echoed, his voice trailing off. Laura caught his eye, tilting her head in concern as Sarah now engaged with Mia. "I didn't mean to intrude," Sarah said softly, glancing back at Mark. "I just thought maybe I'd see you. It's been a while." Mark managed a stiff nod. "It has." Muffled laughter filled the room as the adults exchanged glances, the uncomfortable tension lingering, unaddressed. He felt the weight of unspoken words, issues that lay buried just beneath the surface. Sarah's presence stirred up plenty of old feelings, a blend of sadness and nostalgia intertwined with longing. And here was a chance that could easily slip away if he didn't take hold. "Why don't you stay and join us?" Laura suggested, her tone brightening the atmosphere yet again. "Mia's having a snack party. You can't say no to muffins and frosting." Mark shot Laura a quick look, grateful for her attempt to keep things light. But how would this night unfold with Sarah here? He cleared his throat. "Yeah, stay. We've got plenty to share." Sarah hesitated, looking between him and the gathering family, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Are you sure? I don't want to intrude." "Really, it would be great," Mark said, feeling urgency weaving into his words. Maybe this was their moment to reconnect, to address the silence that loomed between them for years. Perhaps being together, even in a casual setting, would allow them to bridge the gap that had grown. So as Mark watched Sarah settle in, laughter spilling forth from Mia and the adults alike, a soft hope began to bloom within him. This evening could be more than just a simple gathering. It could become something that challenged the rules of their past, but deep down, a whisper echoed, what if facing old wounds only reopened them? A familiar weight pushed against his chest, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the evening's true challenge had only begun. As the laughter echoed around him, Mark could sense a storm brewing on the horizon. Would he confront it or let the moment slip through his fingers? The night was young, but the stakes were already high. Mark felt the evening air hang thick with tension. The laughter swirled around him, mixing with the scent of fresh muffins, but his heart was locked in a wrestle with uncertainty. Sarah's presence muddled the boundaries he had cautiously begun to draw between his past and his present. Every smile she shared with Mia felt like a reminder, echoing old dreams and untamed feelings that tugged at him mercilessly. Mia, blissfully unaware of the complexities around her, gushed about her art show, dragging Sarah along the path of her excited chatter. "I made a painting of all of us. You have to come." She smiled wide, eyes sparkling with pure joy. Mark caught Laura's glance as she laughed alongside their daughter, her face bright with warmth. It was a moment that lit up the room but left Mark feeling frayed, caught between two worlds. That he turned to Sarah, who was basking in Mia's innocent delight. "You really brought these for her?" he managed to say, gesturing toward the muffin basket. Sarah looked up, meeting his eyes, hinting at a recognition that passed unspoken between them. "Of course. I thought she'd enjoy some homemade goodies, considering how much she loves dessert." As laughter erupted again, Mark felt an ache in his chest. Nostalgia washed over him, wrapped in layers of what-ifs. Maybe it's not too late, he dared to hope, but a wave of guilt washed over him. Here he was, building a new life, yet the past stood only a few feet away, ready to infiltrate everything he had fought to establish with Laura. "Look, Mia's an artist," Sarah exclaimed, whisking him out of his thoughts. "She's tiny but has a big imagination," he said, gazing fondly at his daughter. "Thanks to this amazing woman right here." He placed a hand on Laura's shoulder, feeling a connection that anchored him. A fleeting smile graced Laura's lips, grounding him in the present. It was what he needed, what he wanted to nurture, but he couldn't shake Sarah's presence or the questions that came with it. "Mark, I know things ended differently between us," Sarah said softly, catching him off guard. "But I've been thinking about our last conversation, how life changed so fast." The lightness of the room began to close in on him. Every laugh, every kind remark felt like a weight. He mustered a nod, refusing to be drawn back into the complexity of their earlier bond. Life does change fast, doesn't it? Mark replied, forcing a smile. Sometimes we lose track and find ourselves needing a fresh start. He looked toward Laura, fully aware of the new chapters he wanted to write. Right. That's kind of what I've been looking for too, Sarah said, her voice tight with attention. Do you think true transformation is possible, Mark? Before he could gather his thoughts, Laura spoke up, her voice firm yet soft. Transformation starts with not being afraid to show our truths. It means facing our fears together and building something worth holding on to. She shared a glance with Mark that sent a jolt of energy through him. She was unwavering, determined. Exactly, Mark added, feeling emboldened. If we keep letting fear dictate our choices, we lose out on what really matters. It's about embracing the chaos and creating a family. Mia giggled beside them. Can we make a cookie family right now? The innocence of her suggestion broke through the tension, lightening the atmosphere like a breath of fresh air. Mark swiveled his head back towards Sarah, who was smiling at Mia's whimsical request. It was the click he needed. Let us do it. A cookie family it is. Warmth spread through him as he watched his daughter's energy inspire the room. In that moment, the weight of Sarah's past faded as they all moved to the kitchen, creating little cookie people with icing and sprinkles. Mark found himself laughing alongside Laura, slipping into a rhythm as if they danced together all their lives. He peered at Sarah through the flour and joy, a bond taking shape but molded by a new purpose. As they assembled cookie families, Mark finally released the burdens that had clouded his heart. The evening was not just about reconciling the past but sculpting a future bursting with hope. It was a promise that no matter what came at him, he could push through, build a life, a family, that flickered brightly against the shadows. And as they crafted their cookie family together, Mark realized it wasn't about just making amends. It was about embracing the chaotic beauty of life, the love that had blossomed unexpectedly, reminding him that even amidst the mess, love could flourish. He turned to Laura, their eyes meeting with understanding, and he knew without a doubt that this was the real transformation he had longed for. It was a shift inside him, a conviction to love fiercely and unconditionally, to let go of what once was, and embrace the life unfolding before him. In that kitchen, laughter and warmth filled every nook, settling like a soft blanket around his heart. There would be challenges ahead, certainly, but this moment had crystallized a truth within him. Love was a choice, and he had chosen to forge his own path alongside the beautiful souls who filled his life with laughter and light. And it was enough. Before the night folded into a peaceful silence, Mark turned to everyone, a smile spreading across his face. All right, what should we name our cookie family? The voices chimed in, ideas bouncing with excitement, each word a thread weaving their lives together. In this bright moment, a heart that had once trembled with doubt now swelled with unfettered hope. All the walls he had built were coming down, allowing love to flood in, leading the way into a future he could finally embrace. Mark knew he was ready to dive in headfirst and build the life that had been waiting all along. This is your chance to be part of something special. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know you love this journey. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartwarming transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.